The newest model data and timelines are in for this strong storm set to cross the country. Guidance continues to show strong jet stream energy fueling it, and possibly another storm on its heels. This video will break down the near-term strong storm setup and what could be down the line. Before I jump into the latest overview of our storm system, here's a reminder that the WeatherBell model maps that I use are available to you. Check out WeatherBell by clicking the free trial link in the description of this video. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the future radar timeline for the active weather set to evolve in the country over the next few days. Starting out as we go out of our Wednesday when I'm recording this and into Thursday, October 16th of 2025, you'll note that low pressure will already be moving out into some parts of the central U.S. From parts of Montana and Wyoming, stretching over to Minnesota, Wisconsin, and in zones in between. This initial low pressure system leading on the front end of our jet stream energy will help in producing rainfall. As you go back into the higher elevations of places like Wyoming and possibly some surrounding states, there could even be a little bit of snow wrapping around the backside of that low out of Thursday into Friday. The overall weather setup isn't going to pick up until we get towards late Friday into Saturday, though. That comes as there will be some additional low pressure riding underneath the original one. That's going to help in fueling up a front over some parts of the nation's midsection. That front will initially involve at least some scattered storms still expected over the Midwest and back into the Central Plains Friday night heading into Saturday. Some of those storms could produce some gustier winds and a threat for some larger hail. Overall, the tornado threat out of that activity looks pretty low for right now, though. When the tornado threat could elevate us as we go through late Saturday and into early Sunday, with low pressure beginning to strengthen over some parts of the Great Lakes, the front behind it will strengthen as well. Overall, it looks like a very rainy time in general from Michigan all the way back to Texas and in states in between. Flooding will be a threat, and again, that severe weather threat will become more concerning over some of these zones as Saturday and even Saturday night roll on. There could continue to be some heavy rain over parts of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley region out of this likely strengthening system Saturday night heading into early Sunday. The latest model guidance actually indicates that Sunday afternoon will be a time where we get the low pressure system to continue deepening, but it will actually likely tighten up as it moves into some parts of far southeastern Canada. That means a slightly more confined range of impacts around the southern side of this storm. The heaviest rain will probably extend out of the Great Lakes region and then through parts of the Ohio Valley and Northeast, not as far back down towards the southeast U.S. on Sunday as originally expected. Nevertheless, there should be some generally gusty winds over a lot of the eastern U.S. still in association with this system as it pushes east. Some of those impacts could continue into Monday as some cooler air will also likely filter in with the last showers over the northeast U.S. As noted in the previous video, it is going to be the strong jet stream energy traversing the country that helps in fueling the threats up. Notice how jet stream energy will be generally disconnected, but in the shape of a trough or a U, coming out of the western U.S. and then moving into the central U.S. as early as Friday into Saturday. That's organized enough for some active weather, but things will only pick up and we'll really see that low pressure strengthening as we go out of Saturday into early Sunday because of the real tightening U shape getting going here from parts of the Midwest and then stretching out into the Ohio Valley region. On the leading edge of that U-shaped trough, that's where ingredients tend to get pulled up. It's no wonder why moisture and other ingredients will be meeting up in zones like the Mississippi Valley and the Ohio Valley late Saturday into Sunday, fueling up that severe weather threat because of this. In fact, we'll continue to see those threats pushing it north and east as we see that trough really digging into zones like the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast U.S. out of Saturday into Sunday. I think threats are actually looking a little more concerning in some of those zones for Sunday at this point. While there could be severe weather ahead of the trough from Thursday all the way through Sunday night, the best chance does still look to be as we see the system organizing Saturday and into Saturday night. The inbound front and strong jet stream energy will assist in providing that setup. Linear storms are most favored in zones like the lower and mid-Mississippi valleys, as well as into the Ohio Valley region. As of right now, that means the main threat still looks to be gusty winds of 60 to maybe up to 75 miles per hour out of some storms. The atmospheric setup is still ripe enough for some hail and possibly a few tornadoes though, so be on the lookout and have a way to receive alerts. Flooding also looks like a threat that will go up as the system begins to organize, particularly out of Saturday and Saturday night and then through the rest of the weekend. Here's a look at forecasted rain totals from parts of the nation's midsection all the way through the Northeast by Tuesday morning. Notice that in a lot of spots around the Mississippi Valley and then as you go up into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, Oranges and reds are present on this graphic. That indicates widespread 1 to 3 inch rain totals expected. Some zones could get closer to 4 to 6 inches, and that's where flooding will especially become a scattered to widespread concern. As you go over into some parts of the Northeast and New England states, at least an inch of rain can be anticipated, and at least isolated flooding should come as a result of that. Notice that if you watched my last video, rain totals have decreased in the forecast for zones further south from the Gulf Coast over into the southeast U.S. as of now. What hasn't really decreased for anyone, though, is the threat for generally gusty winds, not even associated with any stronger thunderstorms, but just across a broader span with the low pressure system. As we especially go out of Friday and into early Saturday, that's when we're going to get that new low pressure moving out of parts of the central U.S. and up into the Great Lakes. Around that system, we'll likely get some west and northwesterly winds curling in, and some of those gusts could already be around 20 to 35 miles per hour over the nation's midsection as early as late Saturday and Saturday night. As we go through the day on Sunday, though, that's when things are anticipated to pick up as that low pressure deepens around the Great Lakes. On its underside, very gusty winds will be approaching into that low pressure core. Gusts could be around 30 to 45 miles per hour from parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes all the way down the Appalachian chain on late Sunday. That could blow some limbs down before we begin to see winds subside for most spots by Monday and Monday night. Before I move on and talk about the next possible threat beyond this storm, I want to discuss how it will change some of the temperatures across the U.S. Last video I talked about how it will change some high temperatures. Here's a look at what the morning low temperatures will be day by day. First of all, as we go into our Friday, October 17th, a lot of the country will actually be quite cool to start the day. A recent backdoor cold front means temperatures will be in frost-like fashion Thursday and Friday mornings over zones like the Ohio Valley, the Northeast, and the Mid-Atlantic. We'll have similar conditions ongoing as that trough will already be digging down into some parts of the western U.S. by Friday at 7 and 8 in the morning. Look at this, though. A big corridor of 60s in the morning. We'll have 70s to near 80-degree readings over a lot of this zone, if not higher, into Friday afternoon. As we go into Saturday, the front begins pushing those warmer lows east. Here comes the cool down. Here it comes. Look at that. By the time we go towards Monday, October 20th, projected lows are going to be closer to at least normal over a lot of zones from the Midwest all the way down to the Tennessee Valley. 40s will be widespread as opposed to 50s and 60s. Afternoon should be in the 60s as opposed to mornings. That's a lot more normal. If changing seasons gives you headaches, you're not going to like the pattern into next week, as we will likely see temperatures warming right back up above average over a lot of the central and even the northern U.S. by Monday into Tuesday. You can see that here with my temperature trends graphic and all of the yellows and oranges on it from zones like the Plains over to the Midwest, Great Lakes, and then even the Northeast. Looking at the jet stream again, this graphic will help in showing us why the weather pattern will be so up and down as we go through the next several days, and how we could even see another storm on the heels of the one I've been talking about in this video. First of all, there's the U-shaped trough. It's going to trigger that stronger low pressure system that eventually pushes off some parts of the eastern U.S. into the early part of next week. There will be a brief cool down with that, but notice what the jet stream will likely be doing behind that initial trough, ridging back up again into some parts of Canada. And as we see that general trend, that's how warmer than average temperatures are going to make more of a resurgence. That doesn't look like it will last for long, though. If you look to the left side of your screen, you can already see greens, yellows, and oranges moving in. That's pretty high confidence from this blended guidance for yet another trough, or possibly series of troughs, dips in the jet stream, pushing across some parts of the western, central, and eastern U.S. With an active jet stream belt like this, there could be multiple waves of some at least showers and the low pressure systems that cause them into the early and mid part of next week. Certainly looks like at least one additional low pressure system should come beyond the one I've been talking about in this video. There's a pretty good example of that here with the GFS model, which shows a lot of our low pressure near or off the east coast by the time we go into early next week from the original system. Look at what's right on its heels, though. Here comes the next trough and the low pressure on the front end of it. I can't make this up. The GFS is showing a near mirror image of what we're expecting this weekend by the time we go into the early to mid part of next week with yet another low. That could come as we see a very similar trough diving in, so it's certainly a pattern to watch that could lead to multiple rounds of active weather. With that being said, that's about all I have for this video, and that leads me into the headlines recap. Headline number 1, the strongest storm system of October and much of fall so far is about to make a move across a lot of the United States. Gusty winds, severe weather, and flooding will all be threats as the system pushes northeastward into the weekend. Some temperature changes will follow that storm, but then we'll get some more changes after that. Honestly, the mid to long-range attention grabber will likely be yet another storm setup based on what I've shown at the end of this video. We've got more active weather to come, and that's exactly why you should be hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications so you don't miss my future updates right here on the channel. If you had any comments and questions that have come up over this video, make sure dropping them down below in that comments section. That's all the reminders I've got for you, though. Thank you so much for tuning into this update. God bless you. See you in the next one.
One Nation Weather.